Hello guys, welcome to the first devlog of Bonnie Island. I will explain today the core concepts and design of the game and the actual mechanics behind it. So Bonnie Island aims to be the first completely decentralized breeding/collecting game. You will be able to modify these bunnies genetically and of course breed them among them. This will all happen on-chain, entirely supervised by a smart contract that is going to be of course written in Bluetooth and it's gonna be running on the Cardano blockchain. We are gonna be featuring a new kind of NFT standard and I'm gonna explain why in a minute. Bonnie Island exists in a place called the Dreamlands, and the Dreamlands is basically a realm or a dimension that is created entirely from human dreams, and when humans go to sleep, their hopes and fears become dreams and nightmares, and the most powerful of them find their way into the Dreamlands. The more powerful the dreamer is, the more impact it will have in this realm or dimension. So Bonnie Island was born from the mind of a very powerful dreamer in the human world, and we will reveal more about this character as we explore more about the mythos of Bonnie Island. But for now, let's just say it's just a human that falls asleep in the real world, and this human had such a powerful imagination that his dream gave birth to Bonnie Island. Time goes faster in the Dreamlands that it goes on the human world, and the deeper you go into the Dreamlands, the faster the faster the time goes by. And in the case of Bonnie Island, 1 second on the human world correspond to 1 year on Bonnie Island. There are also other characters in the game that they are not bunnies, right? These are characters that come from other realms within the Dreamlands, and they are looking to harvest a particular resource that can only be found on the island. For example, there is a character that is called the Ancient One. So this character predates the existence of Bonnie Island, and he actually runs a bakery in the island, and he trades bunnies, desserts and sweets in exchange for this resource. Now this resource can be found scattered all over the island and is usually harvested by the bunnies, and it is used within the bunnies communities as a trade currency, right? And the source of the source of this currency is actually unknown to the bunnies. They just find it valuable because it's rare on the island. And later we will reveal how this currency comes to be and where is the resource coming from, right? So from the beginning we have been talking about this new NFT standard, and I want to spend a little bit of time talking about this so you guys understand what we are talking about and what we mean by this new NFT standard. So in this slide I'm gonna try to describe in a simplified way the current state of minting with the current popular standard in Cardano, which is the CIP 25. So the way it works is roughly like this, but there are several ways to do this actually, and there are more efficient ways to do it, but roughly it works like this. So we have the user, which is gonna be the people that want to mint the NFT. He sends a transaction with some funds to an intermediary wallet. Now in this side we have the policy owner and some backend code, so some code running on some server that also has control of this intermediary wallet. So this code or this policy owner then will be looking at this wallet for incoming transactions, and it will take the funds that are sent to this wallet and will use it to both create a mint transaction and to pay itself to a collection wallet the money he's gonna charge, or the ADA he's gonna charge for the NFT. And a bit of the funds is gonna be used to create this mint transaction and to send back the NFT to the user, right? But the important part I want you guys to pay attention is this section here with what is called the CIP 25 metadata. So the way the CIP 25 works is that the NFTs, the NFT data, the image, the properties, etc. is attached to the mint transaction metadata. Now, transaction metadata is actually open for anybody that creates a transaction can put anything they want there. But the reason this works and in this current way of minting is because the policy owner is the one creating the mint transaction. So he can actually verify that the data that we put in the metadata is the correct one. If this policy owner didn't exist and we let the user, for example, create the mint transaction themselves, then we could have some issues because the user could put anything they want there, right? They could maybe make themselves the rarest NFT, or they can put invalid data or whatever. So it is necessary in the CIP25 standard to have a central authority, which is this policy owner that is in charge of verifying that the metadata is correct and that the distribution is fair and so on, right? But this is a centralized party. But we're trying to build a decentralized game. So we don't want a central authority. We don't want a person that is the only one capable of minting, or that needs to be authorizing minting transactions or verifying metadata. We actually want to get rid of this guy, and we want to get rid of the whole backend stuff, right? We want users to interact directly with the smart contract. We don't want any central authority that needs to approve minting transactions. And you can see how this is a problem for a breeding game, a decentralized breeding game, that is, because the only way to have breeding with the CIP25 is to have this guy basically verify every breeding transactions, because you need to verify that the metadata is valid for the offprints, and then it comes from the right, follows the right rules, etc. Right? But we want to remove this guy. So that's our goal. We don't want the backend code, we don't want the policy owner, we don't want any of this. We want users to interact directly with the contract. So a naive approach will be something like this, right? In which we certainly replace the policy owner for a smart contract, but this immediately falls short. This doesn't work. It just doesn't work because, as I mentioned, this metadata information here is open to the user that creates the metadata the user that creates a transaction to put whatever he wants there. And even worse, this data in the metadata transaction is not available to the smart contract, because the purpose of the metadata of transactions is to give context to external parties of a transaction. So we want to, as an external party, I want to be able to inspect a transaction, and then I want to get extra information that maybe give me an idea of what this transaction is about, or maybe it has some information that I need to properly process this transaction, right? But this transaction metadata is not intended for internal use on the blockchain. And what I mean by internal use is not intended to be used by smart contracts. So smart contracts cannot read this data, and they cannot create this data, right? So this approach with the CIP25 does not work in a decentralized minting system, right? So we need to fix this, and this has a simple solution, but it raises some more problems. So the easiest solution, the simple solution, is simple to move the NFT metadata or the NFT data to a context where the smart contract can read it. So we no longer add anything on transaction metadata. We don't want to put stuff there because, again, whatever we put there is outside of the scope of the smart contracts. And for a decentralized system, we need the smart contracts to read the NFT data so he can make decisions, or he can approve or not the minting, right? So for example, for a breeding operation, this contract will need to check the both genome of both parents and then the genome of the offsprings, and it needs to make all the calculations, make sure that the breeding operation is valid, right? There is other stuff going on like cooldowns and other state related stuff with the NFT. So we just move the token metadata basically to a context where smart contracts can read it. And I'm not gonna give much detail right now about what we did and how we are going to do it, because I want to create a new video that is more technical, where we explain in detail what is this new standard we are gonna be using for our NFTs or new kind of NFTs. Now this diagram is a bit misleading because it makes it look like the contract can actually take decisions, but in Cardano it doesn't work like this. Contracts are just simply validators. So it's actually the user who creates a transaction who is in charge to do all the valid stuff. So he sends, is the user who sends the money to the collection wallet, and is the user to issue the mint transaction with the correct offprints, etc. and then the smart contract just makes sure that whatever the user is trying to do is valid, right? And this is why we are going to create a new NFT standard, and we already create a prototype of this and test it on the testnet, and it's working. And we plan to both release the information about our new NFT standard to the Cardano development forums, and of course we will open source everything so it can be checked by the community and maybe we can get some feedback. But as of right now, we have solved many of the issues that arise from this, because doing stuff this way comes with another set of issues that needs to be solved, but luckily they all can be solved. There are trade-offs, there are several ways to do it, and I think we choose the most sensible way to do it, and we are going to share more details about how this new NFT standard works. But this will allow NFTs to interact with smart contracts in meaningful ways. So let's talk about the contract functions. These are the endpoints, if you will, of the contract, or the kind of things the user can do by interacting with the contract. So the first thing, of course, is breeding. So users will be able to take 2 NFTs from Bonnie Island, and they will be able to breed it to create a new whole NFT with properties inherited by both parents. There is also a cooldown system. This breeding operation cannot be done continuously. Every time you breed the bunnies, they enter in cooldown, and this cooldown increases the more you breed them, similar to other breeding games on the cryptocurrency space. You can burn the bunnies, and these have a purpose. I'm gonna explain why in the next slide. But remember, I say in Bonnie Island there is a resource that is scattered around the island. The bunnies gather. That resource comes from burning the bunnies. So there is a place on Bonnie Island that we call the happy place, where bunnies that are sick or old or basically don't want to continue their journey, they go there, because bunnies are essentially eternal. They don't actually die, but they do get old. And bunnies do eventually, they don't want to continue living or whatever, they voluntarily or sometimes involuntarily go to this place in the island where they are disassembled. And they are disassembled, and out of this process comes this currency. Originally this currency was called candy, but we actually are going to change this concept, because there was a proposal in the Discord forum that I think is really cool. One of the users proposed to have an attribute that is the heart of the bunny, and this heart is made of different materials, and actually we thought this was a really cool idea, and the way we're going to do it is that the bunnies will have a heart inside that is made of different materials. Depending on the heart the bunny have, it will determine how many of these soul shards. So now you don't get candy, you get soul shards you get from the bunnies when you burn them. And this is just a fungible token, right? This is going to be our in-game currency that is created by burning tokens through the contract. And the use of these currencies, so you can buy stuff from the shop, which is this bakery that is run by this ancient one, this mysterious entity that joined the island, and he's trying to gather a lot of these char souls for whatever reason. So in his store he has a lot of items that he sells to the bunnies in exchange for these soul shards. These are desserts that they have different magical properties over the bunnies. When you give it to a bunny, it have different effects. It could be that they modify a certain set of traits. It could be that they reduce the cooldown, the breathing cooldown. It could be like they just regress the bunny to his his minted state, right? It resets all the cooldown, everything. It's just recently minted. It could be like it just lowers the generation of the bunny. They will have different effects. And they are also this new type of NFT, and they will carry a seed. And the cool thing about these items is that they will affect the bunnies in different ways. I mean, each item does something differently, but the same item given to different bunnies will have slightly different effects. And in fact, if you have, for example, 2 of these taro ice cream, if you have 2 instances or 2 tokens of this taro ice cream, they both will have different effects on the same bunny even. So these tokens will have some state, and this is all part of this new NFT standard, because this is actually stateful NFTs. If you notice, I have been talking about cooldowns and generation, and off-breed. The more they breed, the longer it takes for the cooldown to run out, and this is only possible if you have a state. So these standard supports states. So these are stateful contract enabled NFTs, if I had to give them some name. Right, so then you can breed them, you can burn them, then you can take the currency you get by burning them to buy items, and then finally these items can be used to alter the bunnies. Right, for example, here you can see we gave this bunny this tarot, and then it changed the hat and the outfit. Now, originally I was thinking to add one item per trade, so you can give the bunny one particular item to change one trade, but I think this will make the game too predictable and too easy, and it will be too easy to basically just keep trying until you get the bunny exactly as you want it. And I wanted to add a bit more chaos to the equation, so these items, I mean the ones they modify the bunny's genes, they actually modify more than one gene, so none of the items modify just one aspect, right? For example, we can have one item that modifies the hat, but it will also modify the outfit and, I don't know, the color. So if you want to change the hat, you're also running the risk of getting a less desirable trait in the other slots, right? So it's like a trade-off. So these are all the endpoints of the contract and basically all the functions. So this the idea behind the burning and the chop and everything is to create some kind of constant flow of resources within the game, because if we only have the breeding aspect to the game, I think the game eventually will become stagnant, as you will have hundreds of thousands of bunnies, right, in the ecosystem, and then I think eventually we will overflow. It will overflow if the game becomes popular. It will just overflow the market. And so I wanted to have a way to give an incentive to players to actually recycle some of these bunnies. So the idea is to have this kind of cycle where you breed the bunnies, but then you take the bunnies you don't want because maybe these bunnies have undesirable traits or whatever, and you burn them in exchange for this currency. And this currency, I mean, you can trade it back for ADA. We will probably, if we sell enough NFTs and we gather enough funds, we'll probably set up a liquidity pool so you could actually burn your bunnies and change this back to some ADA. And this currency also can be burned in exchange for items, and then these items in turn can be burned to modify the bunny. So by having this cycle, we are kind of incentivizing people to not hoard bunnies or currencies. Like, we hope that this cycle stops inflation, basically. So we don't have too many bunnies, we don't have too many soul shards, we don't have too many items, because they all have a use from the moment they exist, because when the game launches, all these things will be possible. So you won't have currencies laying around or items laying around. Everything will have a purpose, and there is an incentive to use these things. And we hope this keeps the game alive for longer, right? Again, this is gonna be a decentralized game. Once we deploy this on the blockchain, it will have a life on its own, and it's one of our design goals to try to ensure that the game stays relevant for many decades to come. Hopefully it will outlive us all. I mean, that's the goal. Of course, maybe the game, people won't like it, people won't play it, maybe it won't be popular, but the point is that if in 100 years Cardano's is still around and people wanna do stuff with bunnies, they will be able to do it, because again, everything just runs on the blockchain. The only thing you will need is a way to interact with the contract, and for that we are gonna open source or dApp. Even people could be their own dApp if they choose to, right? So the traits of the bunnies, we have originally 9 traits and we have 50 choices per trade, but we recently added this new trait, which is the heart of the bunny, and this will determine how many soul shards you can get for that bunny in particular. Again, in the spirit of having the game be relevant for many years to come, we needed a huge pool of traits. So we are aiming for 50 choices per slot. Right now we have that amount, but we reach that amount mostly through we have a lot of recolors, and I will want to avoid that as much as possible. I think we have maybe 10 or 15 traits per slot right now, and we have a lot of recolors. So right now we are in the process of designing unique items for every slot, you need traits for every slot, so we don't have recolors as low as possible. And so we want to have 50 choices per trait, and this gives us a total of 97 quadrillion permutations, which is something we will never exhaust. So this is a search space that I don't think we will never cover, right? It's just too big. And well, these are the traits. There is the background, we have wings. This is a rare trait, so it's not gonna be easy to get it, but there are wings, there are different body types, outfit, we have the mouth, the eyes, the item is something the bunnies can hold, we have a hat, we have the bird mark, which is something in the cheek of the bunny, and then we have the new trait that we added, which is the heart. And again, we already have a big amount of traits, but we are a long way to go, and we are actually taking suggestions from the community on Discord. So if you have ideas for traits that you think will be cool to add, then let us know. Other than these traits, there are going to be what we call exotic bunnies, which are bunnies that can be unlocked by obtaining a specific number on each trait, and these are gonna be hand-drawn bunnies, right? It's not gonna be procedural generated bunnies, they are gonna be hand-drawn, and we are aiming to have 100 of these bunnies, but I don't know if we will have time, but there is a way in the contract in which we can actually add more of these one-on-one bunnies. I'm gonna explain more in detail when we talk about the NFT standard, but so maybe what we can do is probably release the game with like 10 or so, and then keep adding to the game as we go. Now, because we have so many traits, so many slots, and so many positions, it's actually very hard to get these rare exotic bunnies randomly, because this is effectively an 80-bit number, and you will need to find the right combination for that one number that you need to unlock the bunny. But because you have breeding here and you have mutations, there is a way for you to guide, or for players to guide the evolution of the bunny, so it's not completely random. So I think it will be possible and kind of an interesting game to play, in which you will try to breed your bunnies in a specific way in order to unlock the rare bunny, because you will know, because it's on the metadata, which values you need on each gene, right? And then through breeding, through mutation, you certainly eventually will be able to match one of these entries. But of course, this will be very hard, and these bunnies will effectively be very rare. So let's talk about the genetic algorithm behind the game. This is just basic genetic algorithm. There is nothing fancy going on. So the first thing that we are going to do is initializing the population, right? It's the first step of every genetic algorithm. You need to initialize the population, and we're gonna do this by minting the gene 0 bunnies, which is gonna be our minting event, right? And there is going to be some incentive. For example, if you're a HoroCube holder, which is my other NFT project, you are gonna be given the chance to mint bunnies with rarer traits, or a specific set of traits as corrupted traits that we are gonna have on the bunnies. But normally, for the Generation 0 bunny, we're gonna limit the traits you can get, because we want some of the traits to be discovered through breeding. So we're gonna probably just mint on the Generation 0 bunnies the first half of the traits. This is something we're still deciding, but probably we're gonna just allow for Generation 0 to have the first half of the traits, so the other traits needs to be discovered by breeding and mutating and just playing the game, right? But there are gonna be some incentive, maybe if you are OG role, you're whitelisted, or whether you are a HoroCube holder, there are gonna be exceptions to this. So there will be some rare bunnies at the beginning of the game that will be minted through these means, but this is gonna be very limited. Most of the bunnies are gonna fall in this category where they're gonna have the first basic traits, right? The first half of the traits. Then we have selection, and well, we don't have, this is not natural selection, but it's like player-driven selection, in a way that you will breed the bunnies that you think will yield the most valuable offspring, and then the least desirable bunnies will be burned, hopefully. So this is the selection mechanic will be completely driven by the player, but it's still selection. So this is also why we wanted to add this burn mechanic, because we feel that maybe some of the traits that are gonna be less popular, they're just gonna pollute the wallets. You know, maybe you have thousands of bunnies that nobody wants. So it's important to us to give them a purpose, and this will also move the gene pool into a direction. In this direction will be determined by the majority of the players. So the more valuable traits, you know, the evolution of the bunnies will gravitate towards the most desired traits, right? Then we have crossover, and for Bonnie Island we're using uniform crossover, which basically means that, so usually in genetic algorithm, the one of the most common ways to do it is that you take, for example, you take the gene sequence, right, and then you split it in 1 or 2 points, and then you just swap, like in the first segment is the parent segment, the second is the mother segment, the third is the parent segment, or whatever, or you split it in 1 and half and half. But uniform crossover means that we actually make the decision gene by gene. So we go gene by gene and we decide if that gene is gonna come from the mother or the parent. But it's not 50-50, we are introducing also the concept of dominant and recessive genes, and this is gonna come in the form that rare genes are going to be less likely to be inherited than the most common genes, right? So even the breeding is going to be skewed towards the common traits. Again, this is in the spirit of making the game stay relevant for longer, and you will need to breed the bunnies more to get the traits you want. But it's not going to be a huge skew. We're going to probably do maybe 45-55%, right? In those percentages. But it's not going to be 50-50 for sure. And lastly, we have mutation, and that is, again, when you breed the bunnies, there is a chance that you will mutate 1 or more traits. We are actually, again, because we're using uniform crossover, we're doing this trait by trait basis, and there is a 2% chance that the trait will be mutated into a random new trait. And so this is basically the mechanism that will allow new traits to be discovered, new genes to be discovered, because the initial population won't have all the traits, right? So the only way to find these new traits is through mutation or through gene modification using one of the other items from the shop. Well, that covers all the topics I wanted to talk today, and this is just the beginning, the first devlog. I just wanted to explain everybody what is this game about, what is that we're trying to do here. I'm gonna be doing this regularly, and the next couple of devlogs are gonna be more technical oriented, and I'm gonna be going deep in the new NFT standard that we are creating. So thank you all for watching, and make sure to share this video around. Let's let everybody know about Bonnie Island and the revolution we're about to start.